The war on the frozen moon of Vareth had lasted for months. It was not a large world, only ice, metal, and ruin. But it had become a place where both human and alien soldiers learned how cruel silence could be after battle. The human army called it Outpost Echo. The Zalari Empire, their enemy, called it the Frozen Tomb. Both names were right. Sergeant Ethan Cole moved slowly through the wreckage, his breath fogging inside his cracked helmet. The air filters hissed weakly and frost clung to his armor joints. He was the only one left from his squad. The last message from command had come hours ago, then static. He carried only a medical pack and a rifle with one power cell left. His mission now was simple: find survivors. But even simple orders felt heavy when the ground was littered with broken machines and lifeless bodies. The war between humans and Zalari had begun over resources, crystals buried deep under Vareth's surface that powered entire fleets. But it was more than that. The Zalari saw humans as reckless newcomers in the galaxy, too bold and too wild. Humans saw the Zalari as arrogant rulers who thought no one else deserved to stand beside them. Ethan didn't care much about politics anymore. He only cared about saving whoever was still breathing. A faint signal beeped on his scanner. It wasn't human. The signature was unfamiliar, delicate, almost fading out. He hesitated but followed it anyway. His boots crunched on the icy crust as he walked toward a collapsed alien ship half buried in snow. Blue light flickered weakly through the cracks of its hull. Inside it was quiet except for a soft humming noise like a dying heartbeat. He pushed through the broken doorway and found a small pod, cracked open and leaking a strange, glowing liquid. Inside it lay a young alien woman, her skin a pale shade of silver blue, her hair like thin threads of light. She wore torn ceremonial armor, decorated with symbols he didn't recognize. Her breathing was shallow, almost gone. Ethan's translator beeped once, picking up her faint voice. "Help. Please." He froze. She wasn't just any alien. Her armor carried the royal insignia of the Zalari, a princess. Every soldier had heard stories of the Zalari royal line, untouchable, distant, worshipped by their people. And now one of them was lying before him, dying in the snow. Ethan knelt beside her, checking her pulse. It was weak, but there. Her blood shimmered faintly on her wounds, leaving silver trails that glowed dimly against the white floor. His medical scanner read the results, flashing red warnings. Her system was collapsing fast. The device translated the data automatically. Severe plasma loss. No compatible donor detected nearby. He frowned and checked again. The translator blinked uncertainly and added a strange note. Partial compatibility found. Human type O. He looked down at his own hand. That was his blood type. The system didn't guarantee success. Cross-species transfusions were nearly impossible. But if he did nothing, she would die within minutes. Ethan looked at her again. Her eyes opened weakly, and he saw fear and pain mix with something else. Hope. She tried to lift her hand, but failed. "Please, don't let me fade." He should have walked away. Helping an enemy royal could get him court-martialed. But he wasn't thinking as a soldier now. He was thinking as a medic, and more than that, as a human being. He pulled off his glove and connected a direct transfusion line from his arm to hers, setting the flow to minimal speed. His blood began to flow into her veins, a thin red line meeting her glowing silver stream. At first, nothing happened. Then her body trembled slightly. The faint blue glow under her skin began to brighten. Her breathing steadied little by little. Her chest rose with a stronger rhythm. The scanner stopped beeping warnings. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling lightheaded as the blood left his veins, but relief washed over him. He had saved a life, any life, that was enough. Her voice came again, soft and confused through the translator. "Your blood. It lives in me now." Her eyes, once dim, opened fully, glowing faintly like stars reflected in deep water. "By the law of my kind, we are one." He blinked, unsure what she meant. "Just stay still," he said tiredly. "You're safe now." But she shook her head weakly. "You do not understand. To give life through blood. It is sacred. You are bound to me now." Ethan didn't answer. He was too dizzy to argue. He finished sealing her wound and sat back against the cold wall, his vision blurring slightly. Outside, the wind howled against the broken hull. The silence inside was thick, broken only by her slow breathing. Hours passed. He must have dozed off because when he woke again, the pod lights had dimmed, and the princess was sitting up weakly. Her eyes watched him quietly. When he tried to stand, she reached out and stopped him, her slender hand gripping his wrist with surprising strength. "You saved me," she said softly through the translator. "You are my life giver." "I will not let you go," Ethan sighed. "Look, I just did what I had to." "You don't owe me anything." Her expression tightened. "You gave your essence. Among my people, that is a vow stronger than words." Her hand moved to her heart. "My name is Liara, daughter of the Zalari sovereign. You will not die forgotten, human. You are mine to protect now." Before he could respond, distant explosions echoed outside. The scanners flickered with movement. Zalari soldiers were approaching the crash site. Ethan glanced at the entrance. "They'll kill me on sight," he said. Liara looked at him, her expression hardening. "Then they will face me first." She tried to stand but nearly fell. Ethan caught her, steadying her with both hands. Despite her weak frame, he could feel a strange warmth pulsing through her, like his own heartbeat echoed inside her body. She looked up at him with eyes full of determination. "You will live. You gave me life. I will not allow you to fall." He didn't understand how someone so fragile could sound so sure. Together they moved through the ship's corridors, avoiding open doors. When they reached the back hatch, Ethan led her toward the frozen canyon outside. The wind cut through them like knives. His armor's power reading blinked low. Her energy shield was gone, yet she held his arm tightly, guiding him through the storm as if she knew the way. Behind them, Zalari searchlights scanned the snow. Ethan knew he couldn't be captured. To the Zalari, he was an intruder who had touched their royalty. To his own people, he was missing in action. Either way, his life was hanging by a thread. But every time he looked at Liara, he saw something unexpected: trust. She no longer looked like a proud alien ruler. She looked like someone clinging to the one person who refused to let her die. They reached a cave near the ridge and collapsed inside. Ethan used the last of his heat gel to warm the small space. Liara sat beside him, her hands folded neatly, watching him in silence. The silence stretched until she spoke again. "You risked everything for me." "Why?" He shrugged, tired. "Because it was the right thing to do." She tilted her head. "The right thing," she repeated slowly, as if testing the words. "Even for your enemy?" "Especially then," Ethan said softly. "If we stop helping people just because they're different, then what are we fighting for?" Her gaze softened. "You are strange, human. My kind sees power as the right to rule. Yours sees mercy as strength." She looked down at the faint mark on her arm where his blood had entered. "Perhaps your world has wisdom ours does not." He smiled faintly. "Maybe we could both learn something." Liara closed her eyes, exhaustion overtaking her again. "When this war ends," she whispered, "I will return for you. My vow is sealed in our shared blood." Ethan didn't answer. He just sat there, listening to the faint wind outside. He didn't believe in alien vows or sacred bonds, but when he looked at her sleeping peacefully beside him, he felt something strange in his chest, a quiet pull, as if their fates had truly become linked. As the storm raged on outside the cave, Ethan kept watch, his weapon in hand. The last flare from his beacon flickered against the icy ceiling. Somewhere above the clouds, human rescue ships might still be searching. He had no idea what tomorrow would bring or whether he would make it off this frozen moon alive. But one thing was certain. The moment he gave his blood to that alien princess, his life stopped belonging only to himself. Far away in the distance, lights moved through the storm. Zalari ships were approaching fast. Liara stirred in her sleep, her hand tightening around his arm even unconsciously, as if she already knew that no matter what happened next, she would never let him go. And Ethan, tired but steady, whispered under his breath, "Guess we're in this together now." The wind howled back like an answer. Morning came slowly on the frozen moon. The storm had eased, leaving long shadows over the white ground. Ethan Cole woke up to the faint sound of engines far away. The human rescue team must be searching. He checked his beacon again. The light was almost gone, but still blinking weakly. He turned to the alien princess lying beside him. Liara was awake now. Her silver blue skin looked brighter, her wounds mostly healed. She was still weak but much stronger than before. When she opened her eyes, Ethan noticed the same soft glow from the night before, almost like stars trapped beneath her skin. She smiled faintly when she saw him. "Your blood still lives in me," she said softly through the translator. "It gives me strength." Ethan nodded and tried to keep his tone steady. Glad to hear it. My people will be here soon. We'll get you proper treatment. She tilted her head. Your people? Her voice was calm, but her eyes showed concern. And what of mine? The Zalari search for me as well. They will not stop. If they find us together, they may not listen to reason. He sighed. Then we'll both explain. You're alive because I helped you. That should count for something. Liara looked at him with quiet sadness. You still do not understand how my people think. They will not see what you did as mercy. They will see it as trespass. Ethan stared at her for a long moment. So saving your life is a crime? In their eyes, she whispered, yes, but in mine, it is the greatest gift I could ever receive. Before he could reply, a loud sound broke through the air. A small human dropship appeared over the ridge, its thrusters scattering snow and ice. Ethan waved the signal flare, relief washing over him. The ship landed roughly nearby, and 3 soldiers jumped out, weapons raised. Sergeant Cole?
One of them shouted through the comm.
We thought you were gone. What's your status? I'm here, Ethan said, pointing toward Liara. She's wounded. Needs care. Don't harm her. The soldiers looked uncertain but followed orders. They helped both of them aboard the ship and lifted off quickly. Liara sat quietly beside Ethan as the human medic scanned her. The screen flickered with unreadable data. Her biology's off the charts, the medic muttered. She shouldn't even be alive. Ethan only said, she's tougher than she looks. When they reached the main cruiser in orbit, the crew whispered in disbelief. A human soldier carrying a Royal Zalari? It sounded like a rumor from the front lines. The officers ordered medical isolation for both of them. Ethan didn't argue. He knew what they were thinking, disease, danger, or worse, but all he cared about was that Liara was safe. Days passed. Liara's recovery was fast, almost unnatural. Her body adapted to the human medical systems as if his blood had made her half-human. She often asked to see Ethan, and the doctors finally allowed short visits through a clear energy barrier. Each time she came, she would stand close to the glass, her eyes calm, her voice soft. You risked your life for me, she said once. Do you regret it now? Ethan shook his head. Not for a second. Her lips curved into a small smile. Then neither do I. He wanted to ask about her home, her people, and the strange vow she kept mentioning. But before he could, the door opened. A high-ranking human officer entered with 2 guards. His name was Admiral Rains. He was strict, calm, and always thinking about the bigger picture. Sergeant, Rains said, you've caused quite a storm. The Zalari have demanded her immediate return. They're calling it a violation of their royal laws. They claim you bonded yourself to their heir. Ethan frowned. Bonded? That's not what happened. I gave her a transfusion. That's it, Rains gave a heavy sigh. Maybe to us, but not to them. Their leaders say that sharing blood links 2 lives. If one dies, the other suffers. They're calling you her life-bearer. Ethan stared in disbelief. That's absurd. Maybe, Rains said, but the council believes it. They're refusing peace talks unless you're turned over with her. Liara stepped forward from the other side of the glass. Her expression was firm. I will not allow that. He saved me. He belongs under my protection now. If the humans send him away, my people will see it as betrayal. The Admiral looked uneasy. Princess, with respect, this is complicated. We can't risk another conflict. Then end it, she said softly. Let me speak for both sides, and so she did. Within 2 days, a small neutral ship arrived to host a meeting between human and Zalari representatives. Ethan was ordered to attend, though he still felt out of place in the clean white chamber where both species faced each other. The air was tense. Soldiers lined the walls ready in case of any mistake. Liara entered last. She wore formal armor polished to silver brightness, her long hair braided with crystal threads. Her posture was regal, her face calm. When she looked at Ethan, there was warmth in her eyes. She stood before both delegations and spoke through her translator. This human gave his life's blood to save mine. His courage restored my breath when even the stars turned away. By our ancient code, his essence is now part of me. To harm him is to harm myself. To chain him is to chain our future. Her words carried weight. The Zalari elders murmured among themselves. The human officers exchanged glances. For a moment, silence filled the room like gravity. Then Liara looked directly at Ethan. Therefore, I will not leave him. If peace is to live, it must live through us. Ethan didn't know what to say. He felt every eye on him, but all he could do was meet hers and nod slightly. The meeting ended without war that day. The Zalari Council agreed to extend the ceasefire, claiming they needed time to study the bond. The humans agreed too, relieved to avoid another battle. But neither side dared to separate the two of them. Afterward, Ethan was escorted to Liara's private quarters aboard the neutral ship. She dismissed her guards and stood before him quietly. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, she said, "I told you I would not release you." He gave a tired smile. "Yeah, I'm starting to believe you." "You think I trap you," she said, stepping closer. "But that is not my wish. You gave me life, and with it you gave me choice. I choose to stand beside you, not above you." Ethan looked at her and saw something more than duty in her eyes. She wasn't the cold royal he had met on the battlefield. She was someone trying to understand what humanity meant, a being who had tasted compassion for the first time. Days turned into weeks. They traveled together between human and Zalari ships, appearing before councils, mediating between commanders who once shouted only threats. Slowly, peace talks began to grow roots. The war had not ended yet, but it had paused, and that was something. People from both sides started calling Ethan the Blood Bridge. One night, after a long meeting, Ethan stood by a viewport watching the distant stars. Liara joined him silently. "Do you miss your home?" She asked. "Every day," he said. "But maybe this is where I'm supposed to be right now." She smiled. "Then perhaps your home has only grown larger." He turned to her. "And you? Do you regret what happened?" "No," she said softly. "Because from your blood I learned what your kind truly is. Not conquerors, not invaders, but givers. You give, even when there is nothing left to gain." For a while they stood together in silence. The ship hummed softly around them, carrying both hope and uncertainty. Then Liara spoke again. "Ethan Cole, the human who shared his heart's fire. When this war ends, will you stay with me?" He hesitated, then smiled faintly. "Let's end the war first, then we'll talk about the rest." Liara nodded, satisfied with that answer. But deep inside, Ethan knew something had already changed forever. He had gone from a nameless soldier on a frozen battlefield to someone who might change the future of two species. All because he refused to let another being die alone. Months later, when peace was finally declared, the humans and Zalari held a joint ceremony on neutral ground. Liara stood before her people, proud and calm, and announced the new alliance. She thanked the human fleet for mercy and honor. Then she turned to Ethan and said, "Let history remember this day, the day two worlds became one through the courage of one human's blood." The crowd fell silent, then slowly began to applaud. Ethan felt awkward under the attention, but when he saw Liara's smile, he couldn't help smiling back. After the ceremony, as they walked together down the long marble hall, Liara said quietly, "You see, Ethan Cole, you thought you saved only one life. But you saved thousands." He laughed softly. "Guess that's what happens when you make promises you don't understand." She looked at him with gentle amusement. "And yet you kept them." Outside the hall, the sky of the New World shimmered with twin suns. Humans and Zalari soldiers stood side by side, no longer enemies. For the first time in years, the stars above felt peaceful. Ethan looked toward them and said quietly, "Maybe this is what humanity was meant for, not to fight, but to heal." Liara's voice was calm beside him, "And to remind us all that courage does not come from power, but from compassion." They stood there, watching the dawn rise over the new alliance. Two beings from different worlds, bound by blood and choice, proving once again why the galaxy would always remember the name of humanity. Not for destruction, but for its heart that refused to let go.